Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Talking TV with my mum, the Geek-Dom weekly roundup review show where we talk about all the genre TV programs, at least all the ones that we watch, including Star Trek, The Walking Dead, the Arrowverse series, and the Orville. Thank you very much, firstly, to people that are continuing to support this podcast. We've had 18 views so far as of today. The recording is Thursday the 14th of March, so some people are listening, so thank you very much for that. Just to give you a shout out, and obviously if you want more shout outs we can do specific ones. If you go down below into the description box and pledge to the Patreon, then one of the obviously lower level tiers is to give you like actual shout outs on the videos and stuff, so feel free to do that if you want to support us further. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because getting those numbers up really helps, and I'm on a push to 50 at the moment, so help me get to 50 and then hopefully we can then work towards the next milestone. And yeah, go down to the comments box below and have a chat with us. We don't bite, it'd be nice to get into conversation with you guys, and also let me know, the last podcast I put timestamps in, so if that was helpful to people, if people like that, let me know, and I'll carry on doing that. I mean, I may carry on doing it anyway, but if you like the fact that you were able to just jump to specific segments, then let me know that. So yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping. So without further ado, I welcome my host. So hello, Mum. How are you?
Hello, Dom. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Feeling a bit under the weather again this week, aren't you?
Yeah, but hopefully, I've got the cough sweet at the ready and a hot drink, so
Okay.
hopefully I'll be fine.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll get through this without too much issue. So yeah, like I said, 18 views so far. That's not bad.
Wow, that's good.
It's weird as well because I'm noticing that even though sort of historically the other episodes are out of date now in terms of where the actual shows are, people are still watching them. I'm still getting views coming in from some of the older podcasts, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's because I'm so good. See, music. It's my amusing antidotes. Antidotes. That's the right word.
Anecdotes.
Anecdotes. Oh right, Dominic. You love to pull me up on antidotes. Yes. Or Bernie dotes.
Bernie dotes. Bernie dotes.
I don't know. It must be something about me because I do most of the talking anyway, so it's got to be me bringing the listeners in. You know.
Well, yes. You never know.
I mean, when I listen to it, I count how many times I hear you speak. So I'm thinking, it's going to change the name of the show soon. It's going to be the Bernie and Dom Show.
Talking TV with my son.
Yes, vaguely.
Oh, I don't
You never know. I might have to do a one that go against you and do my own one based on the things I watch that you don't watch.
Yeah.
Get my own YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, you never know. Right, let's get underway.
Used to it now. Yes, let's crack in.
Right, so our first thing we're going to cover today is Star Trek Discovery, and the episode was called If Memory Serves. And it started off very weirdly, but really cool.
It was bringing me back to my childhood, an old Star Trek episode.
Were you confused? Like, when it first came on, were you like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously I realised where they were, and it was funny because you'd mentioned this to me. I think it was last week about this place is somewhere they've been in previous shows and they've never been again.
Yeah.
And this was the Talos 4, is it?
Yeah.
Where the coordinates were heading, and it was an old snippet of an episode which included Pike. Mm-hmm. Obviously not our Pike, the Pike from back in the day, and that was quite interesting the way they set that up at the beginning.
Yeah, it was cool because they included two things there. Obviously, there was the unaired Star Trek pilot, I think, that was called The Cage, featured Captain Pike initially, and then when the show sort of was then airing, they did, I think it was called The Menagerie, and that sort of went back over stuff that was in the cage, and that's where they went to Talos 4. So having those clips at the beginning, it was to add that context to sort of say, although obviously, you know, there's decades between them, different actors and all of this lot, but this is all linked to that original Star Trek stuff.
Yeah,
so it was a nice little connection to sort of include it all into the canon of the bigger Star Trek universe. So that was really, really cool. I like the way that faded out as well. It went from showing the old footage in the old Pike, and then it showed our new Pike, and it was almost as if he was having that. That was almost like it was playing out in his memory, because he was sort of staring
that's
into
right.
space,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
clever.
he? Mm.
Pike's memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that little bit, we had we flashed to Section 31, who are absolutely fuming that they've lost Spock again.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgiou said that she's not including. She doesn't want Discovery going looking for Michael. Was that what she said? Something like that?
Yeah.
You're not including that. We need you to carry on doing what you're doing at the moment about the red burst. We'll look for her. It's nothing. We don't want you getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. So basically, we found out that traveling to this Talos Fort is prohibited for Star Trek.
Yeah.
Starfleet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what you said. Something similar last week. Wonder why. Because it's never been used again. Were they never allowed to go there again? And obviously that's what it said, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We still don't really know why. Because I don't think we actually got to the bottom of that.
No.
Yeah. So the Spock took control of the pod.
Mm-hmm.
And whoa! I thought they were going to crash at one point.
Yeah, that was really
like,
cool.
Trying to do it all easy, and he's like, no, he took hold of it all, didn't he? He's like, oi!
Yeah, because it was a black hole, wasn't it? And she was like, we can't, what's going on? And he just sort of jumped up, took over, piloted them through, and she's looking like, we're going to be ripped apart. And then it was like, it was not real. It was like a mirage there to test people. And then obviously the real planet was revealed. And
because he knew how to get into it safely.
So then they went and
clever.
They touched down, and they were a little bit sort of, well, what do we do, sort of thing. And she went out to have a look around. And again, in another sort of throwback to the original episode, they had the singing plants.
Yeah, the blue flowering things, and the butterfly, and
I mean, it's funny as well.
Really colourful, wasn't it? Like it was back in the day.
Yeah, and it's really funny because as much as like the cage and the menagerie, outside of sort of diehard Trek fans and things, hasn't had much exposure over the years, but there's this image of Spock smiling with the flowers and stuff that I've seen over the years crop up on various things, and obviously it's from that. So they then echoed that by having Michael stood listening to the flowers, and then she smiled, and it was like a nice little sort of connection between the two characters, between those two things that happened. She had the same sort of reaction as Spock had had when he'd gone to that planet. Yeah.
Meanwhile, while she was having a look around, some woman appeared and went onto the ship.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, this woman appeared and she went to Spock, and obviously she spoke to Spock like she knew him. And then it was revealed that it was her name was Vina. And she was again from these original Star Trek episodes, that she had stayed on this planet. Her and her like research crew had crashed there many years before. Then they'd had the whole encounter with Pike and with Spock originally, and so that's how she knew him. And she said obviously that he'd come to the right place, and it was like she was aware why he was there, and it was to obviously see the people that live on this planet, the Talosians, and that they would have to go underground in order to meet up with them. So they obviously got the coordinates, they beamed underground, and then she just reappeared again.
That was weird.
It's like, are you real? Are you a mirage?
Yeah.
And then obviously the Talosians came, and they were funny-headed, bluish kind of people in long robes.
Yeah.
And they basically said that obviously he'd come there to get his mind healed, because logic has always been his anchor point, and his mind was now fractured, and it was like being affected by time, and that he knew going there that because they're like empathic and telepathic and stuff, that they could help restore his mind and unscramble everything. So yeah, and was it also during that moment where, because Burnham was questioning everything, that Vina sort of revealed her real face, like she said, look, this is...
Yeah, she revealed that she was healed by them initially herself. That's what she would have, if they hadn't helped her, that's what she looks like, basically. That's what she would have looked like. And that is why she's never left. When she had the chance to leave with them lot when they came, she never did. Because I don't think she could. I think if she left, would she have turned back again?
Yeah, because I think
the only way she could...
It was due to their sort of projections and things like that she was able to be the way that she was and stuff. So so they said that they could help him, but they needed sort of payment in return, and because they feed off emotions and they feed off memories and things, the price was that Burnham had to give up her memory of her past with Spock. And
what really happened between her and Spock when they were younger.
Yeah.
The thing that we were waiting to find out. So it's like, that was interesting. So basically she had ran away because she felt that she wasn't part of their world of the Vulcans, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
But the angel appeared to him and showed him her dying.
That's right, yeah, weird
which
creature.
Messed him up. So that messed his head up, didn't it? Because, like, he was powerless, basically. Because, she was out there, and if he didn't find her, that's what was going to happen to her.
It's interesting, right? This is just my quick speculation. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of stuff about, like, Spock has a sister, but she's never been mentioned. They've only just added this in now. There was never any mention of her in the original series or anything like that. And now with this sort of time travel element and stuff, it makes you wonder, perhaps, the reason originally she was never mentioned is because she died. Like, that maybe the angel didn't come to Spock, he didn't have that dream/vision, and so no one saved her, so therefore, when you then go forward when he's an adult, he didn't have a sister because she died. Maybe this whole thing with the Red Angel and stuff is changing the whole timeline of Star Trek. And so then that makes the whole stuff with Burnham and the Discovery and stuff, it then becomes canon properly, because it's like time travel and things has changed the timeline.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? That was just my thought at the time. I was like, oh, maybe if he hadn't had that vision, she would have died, and then that would have been why she was never mentioned. But now, because he had that vision, because of this time traveling angel, he was able to save her.
Well, they went out and found her, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because then he had another one, didn't he? Later on, years later, he had another one, but this one was showed that the world was going to end. Mm-hmm. So this is the one that's pushed him over the edge, isn't it? Because now he has to find how he can stop the world, it's getting destroyed. Yeah,
because it was like there was this weird crafts things, technology. I'm not really sure exactly what they were, but they were like, and it was showing all the different planets. And these things were sort of shooting towards them, and then there was like explosions, and the planets just went dead. And just something was just wiping out life in the whole universe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the angel was obviously showing this to him, and it's like, you need to sort of try and prevent this. And this is why the thing with the angel is coming backwards and forwards, and it's altering things because it's trying to avert this huge sort of catastrophe that potentially is going to occur in at some point in the future. So we got a little bit more context, and didn't Spock also say that the weird thing, when he reached out to the angel to try and touch its mind with the sort of Vulcan mind meld, he said that obviously, as well as getting all these like future memories, which that's what sort of messed his head up, was that he saw it, like he got a sense that it was a human.
Yeah, it was a human inside, like it was in a spacesuit. Like we said, like a futuristic thing.
So we got a bit more here now. We now know why Spock is doing the things that he's doing. We know why Spock went a bit doolally, because obviously he's getting all this information downloaded into his head from a potential future, and so he's become adrift from time in his mind, and that's why he needed obviously patching back together. We also know the angel, by the looks of things, is good and is trying to help our heroes in this era, but we still have lots of questions because we don't know who's behind the catastrophe, who is the angel exactly, and what can they do to stop all of this.
True.
But it was good because it was a real big sort of info dump of like, here's all the questions, here's all the questions you've been asking, but there's now a whole bunch of new questions that you've got to ask.
Yeah, true. And obviously we flash back to the Discovery where even though Giorgio had told them to leave, keep out of it, Pike's still going to keep looking, regardless. He's thinking, no, she'd want us to keep looking for her.
And it was clever, wasn't it? Because didn't he say something like, we're not going to move from here, we're going to stay here, but we're going to obviously send out scans and things, so we can, we can still do what we've been ordered to do, but we can still also look for her at the same time.
Well, yeah, because weren't they going to try and pretend they were going one way and then get... I know that's later on.
That was later on,
slightly. slightly later on. We had a bit of an awkward bit with Tyler and the doctor. Is it the doctor, the guy that
Hugh
came back from the dead?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh, but he's changed, isn't he? He's not the same.
Yeah.
He's just like he can't. We did say that we thought he'd probably struggle with being back because to him he's not the same person.
Mm.
And Stamart, am I got it right this time? Damn it, I'm nearly there. Can't understand it because he was nothing's happened basically, but the boyfriend can't seem to get that, can he?
No, and I mean I feel sorry for Stamets because he's obviously really happy and he's like I've got you back and then Hugh's just like yeah but I'm not me, I am me but I'm not me, I'm different somehow and I just don't feel right. And obviously you could see the turmoil that Stamets is going through, but at the same time you can kind of feel for Hugh as well and be like well it must be difficult knowing that you died and now you're back from the dead but you just don't quite feel yourself.
No. And the other thing was a bit on the ship was when because obviously Pike wants to sort it out for Burnham, but Tyler wants him to leave her to deal with it, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's got more faith in her to sort it out than he has, and he definitely doesn't want Section 31 involved, even though he's from Section 31. And they had that thing on the ship where an unauthorized transmission had been sent out.
Yes.
Like that's obviously from last week when what we thought, what the probe or whatever it was. Now, they sent a like a hologram message, didn't they, to the ship?
Well, it wasn't a hologram. I mean, it was basically the Talosians, obviously powers. They were able to kind of connect with Pike, and so you almost got. It was like a holographic scene. It was like he could see inside the structure that they were in, and Vina appeared to him, and obviously he was like, "Oh, it's you," and obviously then you had that connection to the previous episode. She spoke to him, and she sort of said about staying on the planet, and that he'd always been with her because obviously they'd create almost like an artificial Pike in her mind. So
yeah,
she would always have him with her, even though they couldn't be together really. And then she said, "We don't have much time, and your friends need you." And then obviously Burnham and Spock appeared, and they had a conversation.
I like that. Is the beard working for you?
Oh, that was so funny. The little barbs, yeah.
But it was a bit harsh, obviously, that because obviously they said they're going to beam them back up. They said, well, we have to come back to the ship. But he's not going to forgive her, is he? Spock is like, oh, yeah, I needed you, but I'm not.
Yeah, it was like she was thinking there was like a sympathetic sort of family ties thing, and he's like, this was it was a mission almost. It was like you're the person I needed because of your connection to me.
Yeah.
It was more convenience, and you're like, wow, what happened between the two of them to make him so cold towards her?
Yeah.
And obviously we got that a little bit further on, but yeah, so they obviously informed Pike about what was going on, the fact that basically Spock's okay again now, his mind's been cleared, and that they had to come and get them. So he was like, we'll get there to you.
But was it while they were still on the planet where those Talosians said they wanted to go into his mind to find out what really happened when he was at the asylum, and we found out that he actually didn't kill anyone at the asylum.
Yeah,
he was writing a lot of writing down, and they were trying to stop it, take him away, and said, "Oh no, it's not working. You're not going to stay here." And he just attacked them, yeah, but they were still alive when he left them.
And that's what he said to Burnham,
and
didn't he? He said to Burnham, about the fact that do you see anybody's dead here? And so it's like, so they've either he's been framed, somebody else went in and killed them afterwards, or no one died really, and it's just part of some kind of covert cover-up to make it look so that they've got a reason to capture Spock and get all the information out of him. Yeah. It's like, we will say he killed these people, we'll make it appear as if he killed these people, and then that way we get authorized by Starfleet to capture him and then basically get all this information out of his brain.
Yeah. We also had the fight moment with the Doctor and Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to bring out the Klingon side of him, wasn't he?
Yeah, because he'd seen him a few times earlier, hadn't he? And
yeah.
Stamets was like, "Oh, we'll arrange to get him moved to a different deck and all this lot." And he was really intrigued by seeing him, and obviously Tyler caught a glimpse of him and sort of looked really like, "Oh." And then later on, he approached him in the mess hall, and he just went at him, didn't he? And then obviously Saru was like, "Leave it, let it play out."
He just left
systems.
yeah, He got away with his justification for it at the end, though. But he said, "Well, no, yes, I understand this time, but we can't have that happening.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know that that's not the way." I think that was when that woman appeared to Pike on the ship, and they had the transmission, because she appeared to him and said that she wouldn't appear to him again, and they never see each other, and the only way of their way of doing a safe transmission, wasn't it? And that they needed to follow the Red Angel's design to prevent the end.
Yeah, that happened.
So originally he was going to Talos 4 originally, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He was originally going to the planet, wasn't he? And they were going to get the spore drive to take them there, because obviously it's far away. But for some reason it wouldn't work, and Tyler was getting the blame for it.
Okay,
they thought he sabotaged the.
We'll unpack that a little bit. So yeah, so obviously you had the bit where Vina and Spock and Burnham and that all appeared to Pike. They spoke to him. Then you cut to the bit in the mess hall with the fight. Then after the fight, obviously you had Saru with Pike, and obviously they were talking about what had happened. And then they said, "Look, this is what we need to do." And when they tried to get the spore drive up and running, it wouldn't work properly. And they were like, "There's all these things, and there's these codes and stuff." And when they looked into the codes, they were like, it's tied into these broadcasts that are being made, and it's like basically somebody's trying to sabotage everything. Meanwhile, obviously, us as the audience know who it really is, because they kept doing little cut shots to Ariam, the robot lady, but it got made to look as if it was Tyler, because they were like, "It's your command codes," and he's like, "But I didn't do anything," and they were like, "Well, we can't take that risk," and so Pike took his badge, and he said, "You need to get put in the brig." And it's like, we need to investigate this further. But it's like, okay, so he's been set up as the fall guy for all this. So yeah, so he got taken away, and then they were like,
that was when they decided to head. They were going to try and get Section 31 off their back by pretending they were going one way and changing course. In the meantime, we kept seeing 11? That probe thing, flashing in that woman's eyes, that robot thing, thinking, "Oh, somebody knows what they're doing." But who?
They were going to pretend they were going to Starbase 11, and they were like, once we get to a certain way there, then we'll veer off course, and then we'll have to head to Talos 4, and hopefully that'll confuse them. But because obviously there were these messages being sent out, they were fully aware of what was actually happening and where they were really going. Yeah. So flash forward to obviously them getting to the planet, and basically as soon as they got there, Section 31 showed up as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Then we went back to the planet, because Burnham was sharing with Spock a bit more about what happened when he was younger, and we found out why he was so angry with us, because she told him she was leaving him to save him, but she was really nasty to him. And she told him things like he was incapable of love, and he was a half-breed, and it seemed to suppress his human side, because it made him he felt less than human. So I think that's probably why he's still angry with her.
She called him a freak and things like that, didn't she? And she's like, basically, we're not family and stuff. But the thing is, she was doing it to protect him, because...
Oh, she's doing it from a good place, but obviously, being he was younger than her, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So to him, he was trying to learn humanity, be a human, wasn't he, as well? And to him, it was like, horrible. Why would she do this? I love her, and she's just been really horrible to me.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
And I'm just going to say, it's almost like... You have that sort of, in a way, an explanation now of, like, why then for years Spock was very detached from his human side, because it's like he felt so hurt and so, offended and everything just from the way that Mike had spoken to him, that he decided from that day forward that I'm not going to allow my emotions to get the better of me, so I'm going to lean more into my Vulcan side. He put himself
in a vulnerable position, did he, again?
Yeah.
So he just didn't, basically. Yeah, and they were going to try and beam them up from the planet, weren't they? But for some reason it kept disengaging.
It's because the Section 31 ship was also trying to beam them up at the same time, and they said...
It's like, no, they're trying to get them. And then they had a message saying, a shuttle is approaching. And that was interesting.
Yeah, because, so Section 31 were also trying to beam them up, and they said if we don't disengage, they're basically going to be ripped to pieces. And so it was this standoff between them and Section 31, and then they were like, we need to let them go, we need to do the right thing. Because didn't she appeared to him again, that Vina girl appeared to Pike, and it was like a goodbye, and it was basically like, you need to do what's right and you need to trust that, everything's going to work out. So he was like, disengage the lock-on, and so then it's like, oh, great. So then they got beamed aboard the Section 31 ship, but then
that was brilliant.
As you said, they then had the message to say that there was a shuttle approaching, and it's like, okay.
Because we saw the bit on Section 31 with Burnham and Spock there, and we're thinking, well, who's coming towards their ship? And then we realised it was a hologram.
Yeah, they did the whole that whole comedy skit thing, didn't they? Where they revealed that they weren't really real, and she was like, "Say goodbye, Spock," and he was like, "Goodbye, Spock," and then they just like disappeared. And it was like, the Talosians used their abilities to create a fake Spock and Burnham, and then that was
brilliant.
That was who was on the shuttle, was the real Spock and Burnham.
And when he got off, and Pike said to him, "Is that a smile I see?" And he goes, "Yes, it is." So I was like, "Hey, my pal's back." That was nice when they see each other.
And they were basically like, right, well, now we know more now. And she outlined quickly about this galactic catastrophe, and she was like, we need to try and get to the bottom of all this. And they're like, okay, we need to unpick all this information, and we need to figure out our next course of action. And they basically were like, we're renegades now. We're going off the books.
Yeah.
We're going to have to break all Starfleet protocols and everything like that. And then he's like, I'm not expecting any of you to go. I'm not making anyone, do anything. This is a choice. And it was very much that whole sort of like, oh, Captain, my Captain moment. They all basically were like, we're with you. Where are we going? Give us the coordinates.
Yeah, they were all up going on the run, weren't they?
Yeah. So it's like,
ooh, that's it. They're renegades now.
And then the only other little bit was to do with Section 31 was Georgia
loving Leyland looking stupid.
Yep, and she's like, oh, I can't wait to speak to the admirals about this, because it's like her moving her chess pieces even more into getting control of that ship.
Yeah. All in all, a very good episode.
Yeah.
And you got the answers. We got, like you say, the answers we needed to do why. But I'm still intrigued about this Red Angel, though. Like, it's a futuristic person. Who's it going to be? Is it going to turn out someone we knew?
Maybe it was. Cool. Maybe it's Spock.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Spock himself. Maybe it's Spock from the future.
From the future.
Because the thing is, obviously, although this Spock said that he when the reading he got was human, it's like, well, you're half human, so maybe that's what you picked up on. Maybe it's something to do with that.
We'll see.
Yeah,
it could be Burnham.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it could be Burnham because that's the thing. The person, at least that time anyway, in Spock's memories, the angel did look kind of feminine looking.
Yeah, I thought so.
But maybe there's more than one because, like I said, the figure this time was feminine looking, and previously I don't think so much. So there could be more than one Red Angel. Maybe it's Spock and Burnham together, or Burnham and someone else together, or maybe there's a whole bunch of them. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. They might just not be the same one each time. It might be different ones for different situations, but they've come across.
Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see. But that's
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So we will have another Star Trek very soon. So we'll look forward to seeing what happens next. Okay, so moving from space and back down to Earth again, we have this week's episode of The Walking Dead, which was called Chokepoint. So what did you think of this week's episode?
Whoa. Very good. So we picked up with Daryl and the gang running from the Whisperers because they'd obviously saved the boy. Oh, I can't remember his name now. Henry, yeah. They saved Henry and they took Lydia with them, but Daryl didn't really want her to come with them, did he?
No.
He wasn't impressed. He said, like, no, she'd just bring us trouble. But he said, she comes or I don't come, basically, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And that was very interesting because they showed the camp, obviously, they'd all been attacked by walkers. And the Whisperers don't kill their own, they let them turn.
Yeah, because...
And then they just walk alongside. There was that young chap, wasn't there?
Yeah, because they look at, they're still sort of together because they walk with the dead. Even when they become dead, he's like, because that was weird. There was a really weirdly touching moment where Beta was like talking to him, and he's like, "You're still one of us, even if you turn," kind of thing. Because they referred to the zombies as the Guardians, so it's like you're going to become one of the Guardians now. So you're still part of us. You're just going into a different form. And he was like, "Fetch his wife. She needs to be here for the end and all this lot." And it was like, I mean, whether that's, I don't get the sense that she's not that, like, empathetic, but it's interesting that this big, scary, hulking right-hand man of hers seems to have a little bit of humanity.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Did he say something just before the opening credits about Lydia? I didn't catch what he said. Something about Lydia will walk with us. I couldn't catch what he said, and then it went into the music.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I was the same. I was like...
Oh, that's all right then. He said something, but I didn't catch what it was.
I think this is the problem with them being whisperers, and obviously certain people having different tones of voices and stuff, is that you struggle sometimes. I mean, like, most of them it's okay, but other times I'm really sort of keenly trying to listen and go, what did they say, or what did she say, or he say? And that was one of those moments where I was like, I caught most of it, but then I went, not really sure what the last bit was that he said.
No. Oh, that's all right then. So it was me as well then.
Mm.
Yeah, so we then went back into the real world, well, the proper world, and we were at the kingdom, and they were getting all excited and ready for the fair.
Yeah.
But then Jerry and the gang got robbed.
Yeah, this was a weird one.
Horses.
This was a weird one, because this was something that had obviously happened off camera. Jerry had a cut on his face, and I can never remember what that lady's called that we've seen occasionally, that she's sort of with the headscarf and stuff, whether she's like Muslim or something. We've seen her the odd few times over the years.
I don't know her name either.
And she noticed, didn't she, the cut on his face, like, what happened and stuff. And then they were like, we got jumped by these people, and then it turns out it was connected to that symbol that we'd seen the other week. It was connected to this group, and it's like, they jumped us and stuff, and then they'd given them a letter. They had a letter to do with, like, their demands and this, that, and the other, and it was all very polite. It was very strange, because it was like, okay, so they're an enemy group, but they sent a letter, and they're called the Highwaymen.
Yeah.
And because of the letter...
I mean, I did find that bit, the whole thing was quite weird, because, so they wanted to meet them or something to make a deal.
I don't think they wanted to meet them, as in the Highwaymen didn't request an audience. They basically were warning them. They were like, we control these areas. Anybody attempting to come to your community, we're going to stop them. We control the roads.
And the roads, yeah.
Ezekiel was like, this is a threat. This is an act of war. We need to go after them. Carol was...
I felt sorry for him, because I thought another thing in the way of his trade fair, he's getting so... Every time he's like, we're nearly there, something else happens, isn't it? It's like, oh, no, bless him.
Yeah, exactly. But... he was very gung-ho, and Carol, for once, was the voice of reason, and she was like, they sent a very eloquently worded letter. This isn't like people we've come across before. The wording of this letter and stuff, to me, I think there's a bit more going on here, so I think we should approach this slightly differently. So they were like, let's go and try and negotiate with them, because she's like, look, at the end of the day, they robbed our guys, but they didn't kill them or anything. No. So let's go and see if we can speak to them. So Ezekiel sort of grudgingly was like, okay, well, but we're taking plenty of people and we're taking plenty of weapons and all of this lot. So then they headed off to this place, because they worked out, did they work out where it was that they were holed up?
Yeah.
So they headed there, and they were going to, they scanned the area, and they're like, oh, there's so many people and stuff. And they're like, no, don't attack. We're going to do this a different way. So they clearly came up with a plan. We were, wondering what that plan was going to be, because then it cut back to Daryl and stuff.
Well, no, they did the deal before that Daryl bit.
Did they? I thought we had a gap.
No, they had
them.
a chat, and then they were asking for this, and it was Carol, wasn't it? The deal was sealed with a movie.
Okay, so I see. For some reason,
all that bit happened at the same time. I mean, he's imposing. There was 5 of them, weren't there, on horses, and then the way she got around it said about the movie, and they was like, that next thing you're like, okay, yes, deal's done.
Yeah, I thought it jumped between, but obviously not. Yeah,
no.
They went in.
Obviously, they're going to come in handy if they're people that they'll keep an eye on the roads for them. But the fact is, like, we had, what's this symbol? And then they're just 5 guys on a horse.
Well, there was more than 5 guys, but
well, whatever.
They went into the room, and there was all these. It looked like there was people, and then you're like, these are all mannequins and stuff. And then I was looking around, thinking, how many people actually are there? Because a lot of these aren't actually people; they're dummies. And they were talking from the shadows, and they were trying to be intimidating. And then it then revealed that there were quite a lot of them that just stood stationary in amongst all these mannequins, and they all came out. But it turned out, obviously, our gang are a bit more savvy than that, and they'd actually surrounded them. So they were like, it's not just us that's come, we've got loads of other people, and all their people appeared from surrounding the outside of them, and it's like, you try and do something, we'll shoot you. Because didn't the girl with the bow and arrow, she shot one of the mannequin heads, and it was like the next one could go in you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they were trying to negotiate backwards and forwards, and this burly guy with a cowboy hat on and stuff was trying to be like, oh, no deal, because he was like, what are you offering? Oh, you can come to the fair. And they're like, seriously, that's what you want us to basically allow people through and not cause you problems just so we can gain entry into your trade fair? And it looked like the negotiations were going to fall down, and then that's when Carol, again, surprisingly, Carol was the one that stepped forward, and she's like, well, I think there's something else we could do. And she's like, when was the last time any of you saw a movie? And they're like, seriously? And it was like the grin on her face, the little smile. I love that bit, the little smile and the twinkle in her eye and everything. And it was
that's Carol and a cookie time.
Yeah.
She goes into this sort of sweet mode, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's funny how she can just sort of switch between being this sort of badass, fighter and everything, to being the kind of mum, sort of, or mom, with like, hey, yeah, like you said, cookies and come and see a movie and all this kind of stuff. So it's funny how she sort of switches characters. But yeah, that swung it for them. And we may as well, this is only a small bit, so we may as well tie this in with this whole thing with the Highwaymen, and then we can just go back and concentrate on Daryl and the gang. So in between all these bits and pieces, we had this, obviously the ones from Alexandria, Tara and the like, that were travelling to the fair.
Yeah.
And they sort of ran into a little bit of bother along the way with zombies kind of like ambushed them, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah, that was horrible, that bit. And the old lady and the baby.
Yeah, and the
poor got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, because the old fella got knocked down, and she put the baby in like a chest and closed the chest up.
In a
so
trunk.
so the zombies couldn't get it.
And then the horse guys came from nowhere, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Saved them. It's like, yay!
And they're like cutting them all down, and then Tara was like, "Who are you guys?" And they're like, "We're the Highwaymen." I was like, you're expecting it to be like a shot where there's like some sort of theme music plays, and it just kind of freeze frames on them, sort of with their hands on their hips, grinning. All I will say in relation to them, all in all, though, is I feel like they've just purely been introduced so that they can be cannon fodder. Like, the whole purpose of them coming into it is so that they can just have a whole bunch of people get killed, and it'll be not people necessarily that are part of our core cast.
Because it was so intriguing, wasn't it, this sign? And then, like I said before a little while ago, I said, okay, wow, this guy on horses, woohoo. And they've just made friends with them just like that. It's like, what's the point of them?
Yeah.
Like I say, they can just be killed by the zombies as they protect them going along the road to this fair.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the main character, the main guy, he might end up sticking around a bit longer, because he looks like he'll probably be a character that stays in it.
He had more lines.
Yeah. Majority of them will probably end up never see him again in a few weeks. They'll be like, oh yeah, remember that way, man. Going back to something more exciting.
Wait. Just the final part of that is obviously then, after they'd saved them, they then escorted them back to the kingdom. You had a nice little reunion with Carol and Ezekiel hugging Tara. Nice. And it was like, hey, it's great to see you all. And like they were like, yeah, we made it. And here's all the people. And all like the teenagers that are friends with Henry, they all piled out. They all looked around like, this is great, we're here. And then Carol noticed the people and went, yeah, where's Henry? And so Tara was like, well. So it's like, let's bring you up to speed on everything now to do with the Whisperers and to do with what's happened and all this lot.
Yes. So they'll find out all that now, won't they? Because they were oblivious to all that.
Yeah, because we said that the other week, didn't we? That they knew nothing about what was going on. So now they've been brought up to speed. So, yes, more exciting. We throw back to Daryl and stuff, and they'd found this, like, abandoned, like, I don't know, it was like a little housing complex or something, or offices or something like that.
Yeah. Like an office block, doesn't it?
Yeah. So they came up, and the whole point of this episode being called Chokepoint was because of the plan. They were like, we're going to use this as a choke point. We're going to funnel them in, and we're going to clear out their numbers. And as they point, because it was obviously Daryl and Connie kind of came up with the plan between them. And it was like, we'll go up to the roof, because only the actual people, the Whisperers, can make it up to the roof, the zombies won't be able to, then we can deal with them.
Plus, we can keep a lookout from the high up as well.
Yeah.
From them coming. So he got up to the top with got his crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
Saw them all walking along and killed the poor guy that they said, don't worry, you can turn and walk with us anyway.
Yeah.
He got killed.
Yeah.
He killed him. So that didn't work very well for him.
No.
But Beta spotted him, didn't he? Oh. He's like, oh no, he saw him. And that was quite cool because they found that, because when Connie went into one of those rooms and she had like a thing in the floor, didn't she? She opened this thing. I thought, what's she doing? And she opened this thing, there's water in it and all sorts. And apparently her guys had already stayed there once, apparently.
That's right, and so they'd left stuff there in case,
There's
just in
a few
case.
bits and bobs that was interesting, that they'd obviously been there once before. But oh no, so scary then.
Yeah.
Oh. Then they got in, came up, Henry got hurt.
That was all tied into, obviously, he made a deal with Lydia, didn't he? And he was basically like, because they're like her family or whatever, he was like, I'll try not to kill anybody. Like, I'll fight them, but I'll try not to kill anyone because they're your family, sort of thing. And as a result of him trying to be nice and thoughtful, when they did eventually break through, because obviously they'd gone throughout the course of like this episode, they were fortifying it, putting up barriers and walls and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when the Whisperers did finally make it to their floor and they were fighting, because he was trying to like just take them out and not kill anybody, he ended up getting stabbed in the leg, which ended up with him bleeding out. And previous to that, Darren had locked up Lydia because he still doesn't completely trust her. So he was like, it's better for you to be in here.
No, didn't want her getting involved in it because she's out of the way,
Yeah, so
with the dog.
Put him in the cupboard with Dog, yeah, that's right. And obviously when everything kicked off, she was frantic. Dog was getting really like growling and stuff. And then I think she heard Henry or something, or there was something anyway that triggered her to desperately want to try and get out of the room.
That bit with the dog went, the dog, that was brilliant. When dog went flying, didn't he? Went,
yeah.
One of them. Yeah, go dog.
Yeah, because I think that guy that Whisperer was going to kill Henry because he was down on the floor injured and stuff, and then Dog just launched at him, and that was so cool.
And then we had the fight.
The big fight, yes.
The big fight with Beta and Daryl.
That was awesome.
That was so good.
That was so good. That the whole thing, like Daryl used his kind of survival wild man instincts to like the whole bit with the knives, the knife fighting and all of that stuff. And I don't know about you though. I mean, I just got the vibes I got from that whole thing was like, in like Friday the 13th or Halloween or whatever, where the guy just keeps coming. Like, they just keep cutting. And it was like with that.
What he does, it's still there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the way Beta was like, he was smashing through walls. He was just throwing Daryl around, and it's just like, and Daryl was hitting him with stuff, and he was getting back up, and it was like, this guy's relentless. He's like supernatural. Like he just keeps coming, like a horror movie monster.
Yeah, but then obviously Daryl got him, chucked him down that thing.
That was clever, wasn't it? Because he kind of tricked him, because he went under the floorboards.
Yeah.
And he was like, we don't... And what did he say? He said something like, look, we don't want this. We're not interested in you. All we want is what belongs to us. We want the girl back. That's it. That's the only reason we're here, is to get the girl. And while he was monologuing, Daryl was kind of creeping under the floor and coming up behind him. And then he sort of barged into him, and it turned out that behind all those kind of bits of plastic sheeting and stuff, it was a open lift shaft.
Yeah.
So yeah, he went flying through there, and it's like, go Daryl.
I was going, yay! I went, did he kill him? And then obviously they cleared off, and then Beta's the Undertaker. He sat up.
Yeah, he's the Undertaker. Yeah.
I put, hey, Beta's the Undertaker. he just sat up again and went, no.
But he's pissed
but obviously
off
they
now.
got out. Obviously they got out, but obviously he's not dead. So it's like, oh no.
Yeah, he looked angry. So where it's gone from, this is not personal, this is just about getting back what belongs to us, it's now, you killed a bunch of my people and you nearly killed me.
Yeah.
So now it's personal.
Because I mean, Daryl always looks quite tough, but he's so big, isn't he? So it's like Daryl looked tiny.
He was throwing him around like a rag doll, wasn't he?
I know.
Like the fact that he was just
he chucked him through a wall at one point, didn't he, Daryl?
Yeah.
Chucked Daryl through a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my days. Yeah, it was very exciting. But I thought he incapacitated him. I don't think he cared whether he was dead or not. He just needed, like, we can go now.
Yeah.
Get out. Let's get out of here.
And so with the conclusion of that, obviously with them leaving, did they say when obviously they were, because they bandaged up Henry's leg and they were like, we need to get him somewhere so we can get properly looked at. And then Daryl said the closest place is Alexandria.
Yes.
So they're not headed to the Kingdom or Hilltop or anything. They're going to Alexandria. So okay. So now the only problem here, by going to Alexandria, because obviously they've been careful not to mention like other places, by going to Alexandria, that's now exposing another community, because if any of the Whisperers like follow them, they're going to be aware, there's another place.
Yes.
Because they're kind of in the dark at the moment about quite how many communities are part of our like heroes. So
yeah, because he never actually said there was different place. He didn't really specify, did he, Henry, that there was other places? He just said that they had doctors and things and that. But he never actually said there's lots of other communities, did he?
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't tell her that.
No.
As far as she's concerned, that is the only place. So it's like, ooh, fingers crossed, exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good though. It's very, very good.
Very good, yeah. And we're marching through the season, so I don't think we've got that many episodes left now.
3 left.
3, wow.
3, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because 13 I think it was. Because I'm sure we said 12 last week, so 13, so 3 left.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, okay, let's leave behind the world of zombies. And it's quite funny how we've sort of put these two, like, next to each other this time. Because, I thought it was funny anyway. I don't know if you even picked up on it. We move on to our Arrowverse shows. And the first one, Supergirl. And the title of this episode was Stand and Deliver. Which I thought was funny. In The Walking Dead, obviously, we were introduced to the Highwaymen, and then this episode was called Stand and Deliver, which is obviously something that's associated with Highwaymen. That was quite funny. I was like, did they know?
Are they doing an Orville?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Although it wasn't really about Highwaymen, really.
No, it wasn't. So, what are your thoughts then on this week's episode of Supergirl?
Right. Yeah. So they had to find Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me see. Right, they cornered Menagerie. They found Menagerie, or is it Menagerie?
Yeah, or
right,
Menagerie,
with the
however you want to pronounce it.
And they're obviously trying to find out if she knows, because she's on her own, and they were trying to find out where Manchester was.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Lockwood was disrupted by Manchester.
Yeah.
What was he doing? I can't remember what happened there. Was he doing a speech or something?
Yeah, and it was basically he's trying to stir up like a kind of an uprising almost, isn't he? Like against the aliens and things, which was to try and get to the elite, get the elite's attention and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I will say, like, unless you want to talk at length about this week's episode of Supergirl,
no.
I personally feel we do like an overview, because I didn't think it was that good. I mean, I thought it led forward with certain plot points and the ending was very good, but it was just all basically, it was like, here's the elite, here's Lockwood and his people, here's Supergirl and the heroes.
Yeah.
We've got these 3 groups on a collision course. Lockwood is trying to stir up this revolution. He's trying to get the elite to come out and, play. And throughout the course of the episode...
It was mainly about the rally, wasn't it? It was mainly about the rally.
Because you had this whole thing with Brainy. Basically, we found out Brainy was this online presence called American Alien.
The American Alien, yeah.
He was trying to cause this peace rally to sort of go up against everything Lockwood was trying to do. And it's like, let's bring people together and let's show them a, strength in numbers kind of thing.
Yeah. The only other things that happened in that episode, really, was James was trying to find out about Lena's black budget.
Yeah.
There was that thing, and then also Lena wasn't prepared to try the serum out until it was 100%, and Hayley wasn't happy about that.
Yeah.
She was going, "Oh, we need to use it now," and she goes, "No, I'm not happy. It's not safe yet. I haven't tested it properly or whatever." And that government woman wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah.
They were the main other things that happened, wasn't they? The other thing was where we thought at one point we thought that Manchester had died.
Well, yeah, because this was the other plot point was obviously they found their way to the Fortress of Solitude, and Hat was able to produce some magic gloves that allowed him to, because they just hide the key outside, So he found the key hidden in the snow, let themselves
found
in.
it in snow, just buried in the snow.
And they let themselves in, and they had to wander around, looked at some of the artifacts, and they were looking for specific things. And this was all, again, carrying on this plot thread of them trying to pull John into action and into getting out there and being Martian Manhunter and stuff. And Nia now was able to use a new ability this week, where she was able to use kind of like almost like a dream projection to figure out where they were. And they saw like, oh, they're at the fortress, so they headed there, which led to obviously this fight. They, like you said, they'd already caught Menagerie. They then got the whole thing with taking out what they believed they took out, because there was this thing, I think it was called a Sun Eater. He went running into the room, and then it was like, oh, yeah, Baby Sun Eater, that's it. And that's the end of Manchester, which later got revealed it was all a trick, because obviously Hat had got whisked them out of there.
Hologram, wasn't it?
Because him and Hat had an argument, didn't they, where it was like they're opposing positions. You also had a nice little reference. They made a little reference to Mr. I can never say his name properly. Mr. Mixelpizit or something. The other fifth dimensional alien that we had a couple of seasons back when Barry and Kara got put into that weird dream world where they were doing singing and stuff.
Oh yes.
And it was this trickster fifth dimensional alien. So he's friends with Hat, and Hat they name dropped him a little bit. But yeah, they'd had this falling out, but then he came back and saved Manchester, really. He hadn't really died. But it was all this like plot point of trying to stir Jean into action and sort of like, stop being this guy, be Martian Manhunter, come out of the shadows, get involved in stuff. Which at the end we got shown, because obviously he did decide, right, it's time for me to be the Martian Manhunter again. I need to get out there and start doing stuff. So what Manchester Black was trying to achieve, he actually got what he wanted, didn't he?
Yeah, because he was really angry, wasn't he? John.
I didn't like the rally thing. I didn't like how it descended into this weird musical montage. It was just like, I don't know. And then it was like, oh, they suddenly...
the bit where they were all helping each other afterwards.
Yeah.
Aliens helping.
Jimmy was taking
music. What's the music?
Mad World by Gary Jules.
Mad World,
That was like a big hit several years ago. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel it worked. I felt it was all very quick. It all went from, oh, we're all opposed to, oh, now this happened, and like, oh, now we're all friends. I don't know. It just, like I said, this week's episode just didn't completely land with me. It was just a bit like, meh.
No.
And then the other big thing, so skipping forward to the end, so they had this fight. It all got resolved. Manchester Black's still out there. His team didn't last very long. They got introduced, and now they're gone again, basically. So they're like,
well, they all got arrested, didn't they?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, that was a pointless introduction of all these characters, but maybe they'll, maybe something else will come of it. The big thing was the end. Obviously, like you said, Jimmy deciding to go ahead with this story, to look into everything. And then it shows him at the office at the end. He's tidying everything up. The picture had gone in the paper. It was all this like, oh, this renewed thing of like, let's try and give peace a chance kind of attitude. And he went back into his office for some reason, and somebody shot him.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So now, no, we have no idea who did it. So now it's like, who shot JR? It's like, who shot JO? I think that was the point of the whole thing with Lena. Because, the whole thing of, like you said before, about the human testing and it not being ready. Now she's going to be pushed into it, because it's going to be a case of, we need to save Jimmy's life.
And she might have to, she'll have to use it.
So I think we'll go, that was the point of that conversation. That was the point of all of this, because basically it's by Jimmy getting shot, it's pushed it into action, so that she's like, it's the only way to save his life is to, because he got shot in the spine or something.
Yeah, it was quite bad.
So I reckon that's what the relevance of all that's going to be.
Maybe.
But yeah, very brief, because like I said, it didn't land with me this week. I was just a bit like, no, I wasn't feeling Supergirl.
That was a typical Supergirl episode for that.
Yeah.
I used to say, yeah.
But I'll tell you what's funny is that I felt that more so about Supergirl than the other two, but I also, going on to our next show, because we'll move on swiftly to Arrow. Arrow was a bit like that for me as well this week.
Yeah, wasn't it very much?
The best thing I think about this week's Arrow was the flash forward stuff, because it further, there was more intriguing stuff with the future bits, I thought.
But yeah, they had a bit where there was a bit of more, because before it was like you get a little bit, then it goes back. Obviously, beginning he's going on to it now then.
Yeah.
Right, so Yeah, the Arrow gang have got to play nice because they're now all deputised, and that was quite funny, that bit at the beginning, to fair, where they say like you have to wear uniforms, you can't do this, you can't do that, and Felicity's like thinking, don't like this, don't like having to play by the rules.
Yeah, because I mean,
You know,
the episode was called Training Day, and like you said, we got
mm,
this montage of them training, like learning, like you have to be like police officers, and they were all, each one of them in their own ways had like issues with various things that they were being made to do or shown how to do, weren't they?
yeah, they like they had to use proper uniforms, they couldn't have their toys.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they didn't like that at all. Yeah, the future thing, we had Mia and Will went shopping for the tape deck,
Yes.
and he found one, and obviously because I think it's because he made such a big deal of it as well. She said, "Stay there, I'll be back in a minute." And obviously then he saw it and went, "Oh, I'm gonna buy that." And then the bloke realised, well, he said he'd pay whatever he paid for it.
Yeah.
Then obviously he's a scam artist anyway, wasn't he? Because
Mm-hmm.
basically he paid for it, and then he got a pickpocket to go and nick it back off him.
Yeah. We
And
got to see the fact that obviously Felicity isn't his biological mother, but he takes after Felicity and that he's very good with technology. I mean, we'd seen this in the present day episodes when he came back from school and he was quite good with his tablet and stuff. But he was able to like spoof the police signals and stuff to like send the police out of the way so that they could then go. And then obviously Mia seems to take more like after Oliver because she's a bit more gung-ho, action, fighty character. She obviously then was able to go and threaten that guy, and basically he was like, "Oh, call the police again." It's like, well, you can try it, but we've spoofed them.
They're not coming anytime soon.
Yeah, we've sent them off on a wild goose chase after a fake black siren sighting. So, so then they were able to sort of take him out and take the tape recorder. We may as well keep with that bit because then you got them play the tape. They were both a little bit trepidation because it's like the first time in a long time either of them had heard Felicity's voice. And they played the tape, and she sort of explained that about them being apart and that they'd never intended for that to happen, that they'd wanted to get them together a long time ago. So it now makes you wonder whether we'll find out in the present day, like, what happened there? Why was there this sort of breakdown in communication, and why did William and Mia never meet and stuff if Oliver and Felicity wanted it to happen? So that's another intriguing wrinkle in all of that. And
she doesn't seem to know much. Doesn't know much about Oliver, does she?
No,
Mia.
No.
You know what I mean? Like we said, we're confused, aren't we, about the fact that obviously he's not in it. But considering what happened, why did she never get to know her own father? Because he made a comment of something he did. Like, Dad used to do that. And she went, "What are you on about?"
It was when
what a stupid thing to say or something. He goes, "Well, Dad used to say it all the time."
Yeah, it was like... when... I'll get a word in a minute. It was when she beat up the guy, the shop guy, and then William did the whole, "You have failed this city." And she was like, What's that? What kind of a goofy thing is that to say? And he was like, "It's something Dad used to say." And she was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool then. It's like she had no point of it. She'd never heard that before. So it was like, oh, right, okay. So yeah, that's what that was. But yeah, they listened to the tape and Felicity gave them some coordinates, didn't she?
Yeah, into the glades.
Yeah, and she was like, "I don't want you coming looking for me, and basically I don't want you following these coordinates. I want you to give these coordinates to the other people and get them to come and find out." And then they looked up and was it Mia that said, "I know where this is"?
Yeah, she knew exactly where it was, which they had to go.
Yeah. And they followed the coordinates, and then they saw where it was, and we panned out, and it was the walled city that is now the Glades.
Yeah,
it's its own
yes.
new place. So they're going to head over didn't she say we've got to head over the wall or something?
That's it. Yep.
So it's like, oh, so what are they going to find on the other side?
Mm.
But this whole thing, it's funny actually. I had this thought watching the show, and then I was watching the AfterBuzz TV review of this week's episode of Arrow. And they said the exact thing. One of them said the exact thing I'd been thinking, which was, we're seeing these flash forwards. Clearly, it's a world without Arrow, and now we know Arrow's ending and stuff like that. It makes you wonder whether the point of these flash forwards is because are they thinking of doing an Arrow, like a spin-off with the children of the heroes in the future or something?
Maybe.
Like, is that really what they're doing with these flash forwards? Because it's like, how does it all tie in the present day story? I mean, the biggest tie-ins I could see, there were two big tie-ins this week, which was the bit with Felicity and it was with Diggle, wasn't it? About the conversation about her technology and everything, and
Yes.
about she was like, I'm working on a few things and how they're developing, and I thought they never said explicitly, but the idea of what we know from the future and what's going on in the present, it's is it the whole thing with this Archer program that they keep going on about in the future?
Yeah, probably.
This whole beginnings of Smoke Industries or Smoke Technologies or whatever it's called, is it the Archer program that she's going to start designing, and is that going to be the link between that point and the future? The other link was the whole bit to do with Bronze Tiger, when because Laurel's little side plot, she was called to the prison because about Diaz's
is that
death.
his name? I couldn't work out who he was.
Yeah, Bronze Tiger, Ben Turner.
I just put the guy from Slabside.
Yeah, the guy that was part of the original Suicide Squad.
That's it, yeah.
She got called in because he wanted to speak to her because he had information. He knew who had killed Diaz.
Yeah, because she didn't even know he was dead, did she?
No, and he said, "Oh, they're trying to keep
how
it."
do you not know? You're the DA and you don't know he's been killed.
But then it was like they're trying to keep it secret because obviously they're under scrutiny at the moment for everything that happened in Slabside when Oliver was there. She went to see him and obviously said about giving them the information and stuff, and he said, "I want you to get me out of here. That's what Oliver promised." She said, "I'm trying," and he's like, "Okay, alternatively then, I want to see my son." And when he got his son brought to him, what did he call him?
Connor.
Yeah, and he said, "My little hawk."
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, so that little boy, his son is Connor Hawke, so how does he end up getting adopted by Diggle?
Mm.
So that was interesting.
That's interesting.
Mm.
And we found out that Diaz was killed by Amika.
Yes, when he did tell her the truth, he said basically the fake Arrow, the girl that's running around dressed in leather and all this lot, and it's like Amiko. So this is clearly under the orders of Dante then.
Yes. Mm.
And so she went and confronted her, didn't she?
Mm.
And she was basically like, "I know what you did," and all of this lot. And then Amiko was just like, "Who's going to believe you?" She's like, "But I'm the DA." And she's like, "Yeah, and I also..." And she then showed she knew who Laurel was because she said, "Who's going to believe you, Black Siren?"
That's right, yeah.
And it's like, oh, pulled you out.
I mean, the only other little thing we had was Dinah trying to use her canary call, the thing you brought up the other week.
I said this, didn't I, about her not using it in the future, yeah.
And she tried to use it, didn't she? And then she obviously can't. So that was, because obviously they listened to our podcast the other week and thought, "I've got to throw something in there."
Yeah, they were like, "We need to add this
I wonder
into the
why she hasn't used it. I wonder why we haven't used it. Come on, we've got to clear this up in one of our episodes. Throw it in there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because she started doing it and then went all funny, didn't it? My voice, I've obviously I've hurt my vocal cords or something.
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You can still be Black Canary. It doesn't matter. You'll kick ass and stuff like that." So yes, that was it really. Apart from them moaning and groaning about all the way through it, going, "Can't we do it our way?" And then in the end, doing it their way.
And they got the results, and because they did it their way, they got kind of signed off, sanctioned to basically operate as Team Arrow again, but as a black...
In the Arrow lair again.
Yeah, and they're like a black ops unit for the police. Like, they're going to be a secret task force sort of thing. So it's like interesting. So I'm glad about that, because I was like, I don't want this, like... What are all those... like CSI Arrow or NYPD Arrow or whatever, it's like, I don't like this whole, "Oh, we're like police people now," and it's like, no, they're superheroes. Get back to being superheroes. This isn't a police procedural drama series, it's like, I want the superheroes heroics. So now that they've broken away again, so they're still connected to the police, they're still sanctioned by the police, but they're going to be operating as the Team Arrow again, which is good.
Get back to where they belong.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, and also because they in the future they've gone there, and obviously we were going, "Oh yeah, but there was nothing to it, was it? Because it'd been wrecked." Mm-hmm. But it wasn't in that as bad a state, was it, when they got there in the future? Because obviously they'd been working out of it for so many years later on, didn't they? So
yeah, that
made sense of that bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the brief synopsis.
Yeah, I think you've just given up on it because it's finishing and you're not so interested in it as much now.
No, it's not that. It's just that I want knowing that it is ending, it's like I want there to be stakes. I want it to be exciting. I want it to be Arrow like it used to be. It's been so bogged down in all of these kind of the police stuff and the everything else that's been going on. It was all right for a while, but it's a problem sometimes when you got a 22 episode series. It's like some things can drag a little bit sometimes. So I'm hoping that things will pick up again now going forward. Now that they're Team Arrow again, now that we're starting to get some answers, well, we're still not. No. Getting answers is wrong. Starting to get more information and the stories playing out a bit more in the future. It's like, I want to see where this is all headed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll do it. So let's move on to the final Arrowverse show. So this week's episode of The Flash. And hold on, this week's episode of The Flash was called Failure is an Orphan.
Right. So, yeah, it was a bit better this week, because obviously there was a referral to the big shark, but apart from that, yeah, so in this one, we saw Nora go back to see Thorne again.
Yeah.
And she told him that the cure is finished.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the timeline is changing.
Yeah, because he showed her the newspaper, didn't he? And he was like, this is the final confrontation between the Flash and Cicada, but it's like something else is trying to break through, and it kept, like, stuttering, and it was, like, crackling in and out of existence. And it was like, and she's like, what does it mean? And he's like, it means something big is coming.
Yes.
And I was like, okay. So it's like, okay, we got to sort this out now. So Nora had this sort of...
She went into this mode, didn't she, where she was like, you need to do that, and they were getting all really annoyed, like, oh, can you take her away? She's really doing her head in.
And they're like, you did this.
She's like,
you created
trying
her.
to take over.
I just loved all that little, like with Sherlock and stuff. It's like, you did this. You're responsible.
Yeah. And then Barry's trying to think, how am I going to actually tell him? Or they were trying to think of other ways he's done it.
Mm-hmm.
How he's talked people around with his Flash chat. And he's getting really stressed about it. And Nora started getting panicking because she saw something in the newspaper which, basically said this is how they had to do it that day. Otherwise, the timeline would change again.
This was connected to the, because they got a call about a new metahuman who Cisco then went on to name Acid Master. And he was, like, able to shoot acid stuff. And it was then Nora clicked that she had seen in the photograph, she had seen this kind of burn mark thing, and then she's like, so if he's about, that means that it's today. Today is the day that you have your final confrontation with Cicada, so we need to get a move on. You need to know what you're going to say to him and how you're going to deal with this, because this is it. This is the moment. Yeah. So there was even more this sense of urgency of, like, trying to work it all out, and obviously, what are you going to say? And she'd been doing all this stuff, like, we saw her doing things like she was going through all the tapes of Barry. Oh, no, that was afterwards, wasn't it? But they were trying to, you really need to know what you're going to say to him and how you're going to confront him and stuff. So they set about creating a scenario which would lead them to the alleyway or whatever it was in the picture, so that Barry could speak to him and say, look, we've got this cure. You want to take it?
Yeah, because didn't Frost pretended to be the Acid Master to get Cicada in one place so that he could confront him and speak to him.
Yeah.
And it was on about his legacy, and he was going, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
He wasn't interested in anything Barry had to say, and Joe was saying, just be more Barry.
Yeah.
Just be more like Barry. I thought, because obviously when he, can't really jump to that, because later on he does do it, but... I was going to say something then, but and also we also had the Joe and Cecile teaming up as a team, and that didn't go very well at first, did it? Yeah,
because they were going to go and speak to the doctor who's been working with Cicada, weren't they?
The first time, yeah, but the first encounter didn't really work because obviously can she hear what she's thinking?
Her thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, but then but they persevered with that, didn't they? Oh, it was so funny, the two of them. We found out that the nurse helped Cicada because her partner was killed by a matter.
Yes. Because we've been wondering, haven't we? We've been wondering, like, what's her motivation? Why is she so anti-Meta, and why is she working with him and helping him? And that was that that was the second time, wasn't it, when they brought her
Yeah, the
into the
second
police
time, yeah.
station? Because the first time they went to speak to her, and it was that whole bit was so funny. She's like, if I twiddle my ring this way, it means that she's lying or that she's trying to set us off course and all this kind of stuff. And like you said,
it didn't go very well because he couldn't really work out the signs of what she was trying to say to him.
And it led them to having a kind of row. She was cross with him.
Yeah.
And then that
she
led
got a bit frustrated with him, didn't she?
Jo having a conversation with Barry, and Barry basically gave him some advice. And he's like, oh, you're getting pretty good at this. You're getting pretty good at this whole thing. And he's like, oh, well, and then Jo went to her and he's like, look, let's try this again. So then they brought her in for questioning.
Yeah.
And because they went through all the case files and they found out bits and pieces, didn't they?
They also found out that the Grace is also a meta, didn't they?
Yes.
Ooh.
Which we kind of wondered the other couple of weeks back when it showed her, because that scar was like glowing like purpley on her head. So yeah, it got confirmed.
At this time when Barry confronted Cicada, he got his attention because he took his mask off, didn't he?
Because they said we need to set up another meeting. We need to try and do this again. And this time, I'm going to speak to him. I'm not going to speak to him as the Flash. I'm going to speak to him as one father to another father.
He did originally, didn't he? And then he just sort of went. He just started talking about the little girl, and then he took his mask off and said, well, "I'm a dad too."
Yeah.
So revealed himself to him,
and
he agreed he'd go with him, but the nurse had to be there if they were going to do anything. He wasn't prepared to just trust them. He wanted that woman to go with them.
Yeah, because they had to. If they removed his power, then the cut that he's got would have like started bleeding and stuff like that. So it's like we're going to need to suture the wound up like as soon as his power's been removed. And that's why he was like, the deal is Dr. Ambrose is here or we're not going ahead with it. And they're like, okay, we'll sort it out. We'll make sure she's here for it. So he was like, okay, fine. So they decided to go ahead with it. And they gave him the cure and it worked, didn't it?
Yeah. And it was going really well, wasn't it? They were doing the thing and he started having some sort of fit. Well, they said it was because the cure was working, didn't they? Because he was like, looked like he was having a sort of fit or so, wasn't it?
And they said it's working because the dagger was starting to lose power.
Lose the power, yeah.
And Barry said, my powers are starting to come back.
Yeah, he got his powers back. And also Shirley still trying to get the information from Nora. He's not giving up.
Yeah.
And he kept saying about the timeline being malleable.
Yeah, because obviously that was the thing she'd wrote.
Because obviously
he used that in conversation, didn't he, in the hope that it would sort of trigger something in her.
Didn't they have some sort of like power crash in the Star Labs?
Yeah, because the conversation they had was they were waiting like I don't know where, like a reception area or something. I never quite know where that room is. We've had that before where they're sat in that room, and Cecile went and joined them because she was picking up all these weird rage emotions from Cicada.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they'd had that conversation. It then cut back to them doing the surgery, and then suddenly all the power went out, and they're like, oh, what's going on? We need to try and figure out why the power's going out. Cut back to Sherlock and Cecile and Nora in the other room. Somebody bursts through the window and shoots all these like lasery beams out of their hands, ties them up to the wall, knocks out Sherlock. And it's like, Cicada's here. And it's like, how's that possible? How is Cicada here?
How is it when he's laying on the bed? Yeah.
Yeah. So they all set off to intercept Cicada. Did you work it out, like, the moment this person appeared, did you work it out? Because I did.
Yeah, I could see it was a female.
Because we had that, obviously, from a couple of weeks ago when they were inside Grace's memories.
Just the eyes look different to a man. That's what I thought. But
it was also from, like I said, when they were inside Grace's mind, and the Cicada that was there, I said at the time, it was her. She was actually Cicada, and that's what got revealed in this, because she took them all out. She took our Cicada, like the main Cicada, away, and then when it cut to them in like the house or whatever, she took the mask off and said, "I've missed you, Uncle," or whatever. And it was like, yeah, that wasn't a shock. It's like,
no, because I think you mentioned, it was mentioned, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago when one of us said it
about her being Cicada in the future. Yeah,
because I think we were on about when Sherlock said, because they brought it up in this episode, didn't they, about Sherlock, how many times? 38.
Yeah.
So thinking, potentially there could be somebody else pretending to be him or being.
It was also the whole thing about how the killing stopped for a long time.
Yes.
and then they started up again out of the blue, and it's like, well, probably because it's two different people, it's not the same cicada, and that's now basically that's been confirmed. Yeah, so Grace, so they clearly never got the cure to Grace, but the big question is, how did she come back from the future?
Yeah.
How is she there? And is this tied into Thorn? Is Thorn going to be connected to this?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Hmm.
This is when she'll become undone, won't she, Nora?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't supposed to happen, was it? Because that was the plan, wasn't it? The plan between the two of them was to get rid of him, wasn't it? That's why she came back.
It was to help Barry to get rid of Cicada and stop him from disappearing or whatever. And so that's why Thorne's been helping her. But then, as we've said time and time again, what's his motive? Why would he be helping her? Why is he interested in all of this? What is his end game to try and help her stop Cicada, help her parents stop Cicada in the present day? It's like, for what reason? You know, and now it seems like we're moving closer towards that reason getting revealed, because I can't see any other way of like how she could travel back in time unless it was with the help of a speedster or something. So
yeah, because Nora had to get help from him to get there, didn't she? So he had to do it.
Yeah.
So I thought, ooh.
It's going to be interesting next week, because you've got, obviously now, Dwyer, the original Cicada, is cured. Grace clearly never gets cured. Grace from the future has killed the Doctor, and they're all on the back foot now, because they're like, oh, this person's turned up, taken Cicada away, and then, like you said, I think everything for Nora is now going to start unraveling, because she's already under the microscope. Sherlock is very clever. Sherlock is going to put together these last few pieces of the puzzle, and then it's going to be like, right, why did you lie to us?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's further secured, I think, that there's going to be something big next week, because next week's episode is called Time Bomb. So whether that means it's like a dual, what's the word? You know when something has like two meanings, like a dual meaning?
Dual purpose.
It's like a ticking time bomb, as in like this scenario has been building where it's going to explode. So like all of this is going to unravel on Nora and explode in her face, but also maybe as in a literal time bomb, as in to do with time and time travel and, something happening.
And then it's definitely some of it's going to come out anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
At some point next week. It's got to do. She's going to react to that, isn't she? She's going to react to it.
Yeah.
She's going to let us, she's going to, if nothing else, she'll draw attention to herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that shouldn't have happened. Why did, you know what I mean? She might say something.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, I would say out of the 3 shows this week, Flash was definitely the best one of the 3. And I'm really excited to see the fallout from all of this now and how this all builds. Because you get the feeling as well, like, I mean, we've had this feeling all along, like, with the inclusion of Thorn and the Nora storyline and stuff, that, like, the whole thing with Cicada isn't really the big bad, isn't the big villain of this season. And now that Cicada's now been taken off the chessboard, and although we've got Cicada Mark II from the future, but that issue's been resolved, so it's now like, well, there's a person from the future who is also Cicada, somehow has managed to time travel. This has all got to be connected with Thorn. What is Thorn's endgame? Therefore, Thorn is going to end up being the main villain for the remaining few episodes or something. I don't know. It's just, I'm very, very looking forward to, I'm very excited to see where this all goes.
Yeah, I can forgive them for last week after this week. I can see where they were coming from and wanted to test it out.
Yeah.
No more silly animal things.
Not for a while, at least. Not until next year.
Not for a while, anyway. Next season.
Yeah.
Save it for next season.
So, there we go. That's the Arrowverse done and dusted. So, we will move on now. As we always do, we always end it on a high by having our final conversation, our final episode review of the Orville. And this week, Blood of Patriots was the name of this episode, and it was nice because it picked up kind of not directly after the outcome of the Identity episodes, but it was very tied in, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because it started with an award ceremony, wasn't it?
Yeah, for their actions.
Based on what happened last week, and the blob man, Yarfit,
yep,
got a medal for his bravery because it was thanks to him saving the day. That was sweet.
Yeah.
And then they got word that the Krill wanted to enter into a peace treaty.
Yes, they had some weird word for it, and Ted Danson.
Well, yeah, they had sort of like a preliminary treaty, wasn't it? I can't remember what they called it now.
Yeah, it was because obviously Ted Danson was this week. We didn't have Professor Stein. We had Ted Danson this week.
Oh yes, of course we did. Yes.
And he was he was telling them all the word, and he's like, oh, in Krill it means this, but it's basically like a preliminary contract. It's like, the beginning of a peace treaty. It's just part of this process we have to go through, and so you're to meet with them at these particular coordinates, and you'll be meeting with their diplomatic envoy in order to get things started. And it was like,
yeah, he was quite chuffed, wasn't he? Because they said, you've been chosen to deal with it. It's like, really? I'm not really high enough position to be doing that. I said, no, you are the man for the job. And it's like, well, okay, we can do this.
Yeah. So off they went, and when they arrived at the coordinates, there was something weird happened.
Well, the Krill was firing on there was a shuttle, which was one of theirs.
Yep.
Which they presume was the people coming to their ship for this talk. And the Krill were actually firing at it.
Yeah.
So I thought, it might be a trick. Some sort of they're up to something really. They have no intention of making peace. Because obviously they were firing on their shuttle. It just looked a bit odd to them, didn't it?
Yeah. So they decided that we're going to open the shuttle bay and let the shuttlecraft aboard and try and determine what exactly is going on here. Went inside, and there were two people inside.
I think, well, they're not even Krill; they're human people. It's like, okay. They were basically main guy was some friend of Gordon from the ship.
That's right.
Apparently, a guy he'd worked with many years ago. Odin. Is it Odin? Oren.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they told them that they had been prisoners on the Krill for years and years and years, and that they weren't looked after. So based on what they were told, Ed is got a really difficult position now about making this peace talk.
Yeah, it's like he couldn't have arrived at a worse time.
Yeah.
And the other person in the shuttle was his daughter, and she doesn't talk because
Yeah, she's so over because of what had happened. She's never spoken or something since they've been prisoners or something like that, wasn't it?
Then we had the Krill. The Krill sort of explained why they were shooting on the ship, didn't they?
Yeah, they told them what that was all about, but they said, well, we need to come aboard and talk to you because, we can't do this over the comms. So Ed told the Vulcan woman to keep them busy for a bit longer because he had to sort out what he was going to do about it. Well, that was quite hilarious, wasn't it? She had them doing everything, a pee sample.
It was like, and things when people want to go to another country and they're like, you have to answer all these questions and you've got to sign all these forms, and now we need a urine sample and all of this kind of stuff, and they're like, really? This is ridiculous.
Why do we do that over there in the corner? There's the pee corner from last week. And then when she got the rubber gloves, she goes, a few more minutes, please, Talia, and she's all like, rubber gloves? I thought, oh dear. Even Gordon's idea, let's get 3 back rubs.
I know, that's so funny. But
yeah, so then
after all that, they had their conversation and they basically said, look, before we can move ahead with the peace talks, I'm sorry, but things are on hold because the person you're harbouring destroyed 4 of our ships. That's why we want him, because he's committed these acts of war, and they're like, how can one guy have destroyed so many Krill ships? So they were like, well, look, we need to get to the bottom of this. We're not going to hand him over to you. We need to try and work out what's going on here. So in the meantime... Yeah,
so they said they'll get back to them.
Yeah, so in the meantime, they're trying to get to know the girl, obviously teaching her all these things. She's very good at games and things, but she doesn't speak.
So the game is called Hold On Discs that the boys were playing with Isaac the other week.
Yes, that's right. And she
said was like...
picked it up really easily and really quickly, didn't she?
Yeah, and then that was that cool instrument that Talia had.
I like that, yeah, and it made the sounds appear as like colours and things.
Yeah. They're obviously trying to get a reaction, weren't they? By doing things like that, thinking, oh, trauma, sometimes, like, bring her out of herself.
That bit was
seemed
funny.
to work, didn't it?
No, but that bit was funny too, because she was like, when she was explaining how her parents made her learn it, and she's like, and when I was in college, it meant that as a result, I didn't get laid much. And then that weird guy again, the weird guy with the big head that we talk about nearly every week, Gary or whatever his name is. Yeah, he sat there and like, she sort of nods to Tala and sort of goes, think you'll get laid now, Kelly said to her. And she looked over and he's like, hi.
I was like, no.
And she's like, oh, great. But yeah, while they're doing all that with her, obviously Gordon's friend Orrin is also a Union officer, so that means that he's got basically freedom to wander around the ship.
Yes.
So he's like, oh, I'd like to have a look
in good old nosy, wasn't he?
Yeah. So his behaviour of looking around the ship the way he did, because obviously Tala's job is she's chief of security, she started feeling a bit like, why is he doing this? Why? And like, because Ed went to her, didn't he, and said, what are your feelings on him off the record? And she said, I don't know. I'm not sure if I trust him.
He doesn't trust him, no. That's right. And obviously, Ed was like thinking about, well, we're going to have to let him go back because we can't lose the peace deal. And him and Gordon, they came to blows over that, didn't they?
Yeah.
But he's my friend, and he said you can't send him back after all these years he's been a prisoner. But then it turned out he didn't want to stop the peace treaty. He told Gordon he didn't want to stop it. He said it's not good. We don't want to stop it. And I wanted him to help him.
And we didn't really know what he wanted him to help him to do, but it was basically, we need to get a shuttlecraft, we need to get off the Orville, and we need to go to this place.
Yeah.
And Gordon's like, okay, because they're old friends, and because he owed Orrin, because obviously Orrin had saved him a long time ago, back in their academy days and stuff, and so he was like, all right, you're my friend, so I'll go along with this. So they got off the Orville in a shuttlecraft, and they were trying to figure out, we were like, what's going on here? What's happening? And it really got revealed when it was the bit back on the Orville with the daughter, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Where it turned out she was not...
Who doesn't talk.
Yes, and she did speak, and she's not his daughter.
No.
And she has
she
explosive blood.
Yeah, 'cause she had marks in her arms or something, and then Talia was trying to help her, and then the daughter just went for food coming out of her nose, and I thought... And then she wasn't a human or anything, was she? Some sort of humanoid or something.
She was from a planet whose blood...
Apparently the goo, she could explode or something.
Yeah, and as a result, they'd made a deal with the Union, like, decades previously, that they would stay away from places with nitrogen in the atmosphere or something. Because they would be like walking bombs. Like, they are... If they come in contact with nitrogen, they would be like walking bombs. And then it's like, that's how he managed to blow up those ships.
Yeah, and they realised that the marks on her arms was where he'd like draw from her green gooey blood.
Yeah.
To set bombs to destroy the Quill ships. But now he was on a suicide mission with Gordon on board.
Yeah.
It was like, no, Gordon's on there.
And it was like, that's what we're going to do. And then Gordon's like, I don't want a part of this. And it's like, well, you got no choice. And then he basically tried to blackmail him. Because he's like, oh, what they did to my wife. And then he explained about his daughter. And he's like, she died too. And you owe me and all this lot. And Gordon's like, no, man, no, can't do this. Sorry. So he got in a spacesuit. And he pieced out there, didn't he?
He walked off the ship. He just floated off into space.
And then you were like, oh my God, because the thing... It blew up behind him.
It literally blew up, didn't it? Within seconds of him getting out, didn't it?
Yeah, and he got sent hurtling through space.
Orville was there and grabbed him.
And the Orville tractor beamed onto him and pulled him back on board. And that was the end of that. So he blew up. They obviously dealt with the girl. Gordon was safely back on board. And because now this guy's gone, the threat's gone, they then were able to have resume the meeting with the Krill and sign this preliminary peace treaty.
By the treaty.
And they're like, yeah, does that mean now this is the beginning of peace? And the guy's like, we'll see.
Yeah, he wasn't committing himself, was he?
He was like, we'll see what happens.
It was like an interim treaty form. It wasn't like the main thing. This is to get the treaty, like the proper talks going, isn't it?
Yeah.
For peace.
Yeah.
And then he's like, don't know about that. And then Ed had to make up with his best mate, didn't he?
Yeah, that was nice. And then he said about like,
yay, the friends again, sweet.
I'm sorry you lost your friend, and he's like, I didn't. That was a long time ago. That person was not my friend.
Yeah, he wasn't my friend. He wasn't. What was left of him was nothing like the guy that he knew from many years ago.
And they said, let's go and have a beer, and you can tell me all about stories about him. And he's like, yeah, let's do that. So it was like ended on a nice little, It's like they're buddies. That's his best friend now. So yeah, it was a really good episode for Gordon because he got a lot of, normally because he's the comic relief a lot of the time, he got a very serious plot line to do with, patriotism and to do with suicide bombing and, how war affects people.
Because it was clever, wasn't it? Because at one point you thought he was working with him. You thought he was doing what he said, and he fed a little bit of information to Talia, and then obviously then it looked like, oh no. He was. I personally said, "Oh, he's telling her because he wants her to know because he wants some backup because he doesn't trust this guy." And obviously, then he had to pretend he shot her, didn't he, to get away in the pod?
Yeah.
But then that worked out. Yeah, did that work? Yeah, you're all right. Yeah, I'm up now.
Yeah.
It's like you'd obviously had it all worked out. We hadn't seen any of that bit. And I was thinking, what's happening? Why is he going with him?
Yeah.
What's going on, Gordon? You're going against your better judgment, mate. Then it worked out that it was a plan anyway. He was trying to talk him round, but he was going to do it anyway, so he had to get out of there before he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was like you say, yeah, he had quite a big part in that episode, didn't he?
He did indeed. So yes, another week, another exciting episode of the Orville. It's just like every week that show doesn't fail to disappoint. Good job, Seth MacFarlane and the gang. Well done.
It's interesting what's going to go forward now because like say we still have no because the guy did mention that the Kalon, didn't he? So that we know they're still a threat.
Yeah.
And obviously the Krill are sort of theirs, so it's interesting to see what will happen next week. Because last time we had a little bit of like a thread left from the week before, but this week was like, all right, where do we go now then? That's what's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a brilliant program.
It is indeed. It's very good. So yeah, that was a really good one. We ended on a high.
Not as guarantee we'll get a decent story. I don't think we've ever had a week where we go, Orville was a bit meh.
Yeah.
Like we have done with Flash and Arrow.
Yeah, we've been consistently.
So it's always like Seth always pulls it out of the bag at the end of the week. We go, yay! At least that was a good episode.
Yeah. So yes, there we go. That's everything covered. That's all our shows for this week. We are all up to speed. We have had some issues again, and I think there's been some issues on Mum's end because there's been a few dips, but hopefully it won't be too noticeable once I've done my editing. But yeah, so brings us to a close, to a conclusion. So if you've enjoyed this, then thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being here with us. Spread the word about the Geek-Dom. Tell them to come and listen to these podcasts and watch my videos. There's plenty on the channel. Like, subscribe, comment, and if you go to the description links, like I said before, you can find ways to support this podcast and this channel and help us get more equipment and various other things to grow it. And that would be hugely appreciated, and we can give you proper shout outs and things like that. Thank you very much, Mum. Thank you for getting through this again with your impending new illness, so hopefully you'll feel better soon, and I'm sure anybody listening would send you good wishes.
That's what air conditioning does.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be fine by next week's recording.
I will do.
But yeah,
well, I've got a few days off, so I know I'll get myself better, hopefully. So
yeah, fingers crossed. So thank you for your time, and
I got through it. Like I say, we had teething problems, and at least we got it sorted in the end.
Yeah, we did indeed.
I look forward to listening to it again on Sunday.
So that'll do us for this time, guys. So thank you very much once again for listening, and we'll catch you next week, same time, hopefully. So you all take care now, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.